A few years ago, I was in a meeting where everybody was talking to be heard. I mean, people shouting over each other, over each other themselves. Nothing was making sense. The first thing I wanted to do was to turn around and run out of the room, but I had to be there. This was a business meeting for my business, in fact. And I stayed quiet for most of the meeting, not because I was afraid, but because I had to think about how to read the room first, how to speak with the most impact so that when I used my voice, I knew for sure it would be heard. I'm not a woman who prides herself on always matching energy or on talking louder, hoping that people will hear me. In fact, I tend to speak more softly, and I tend to think very highly about soft power. I have a lot of people asking me about how to use it, and I want to talk to you about 3 ways in which I do use it. That day, I finally spoke by lowering my voice and leaning in and forcing people to be quiet in order to hear me. And the room actually went silent. That is what I call soft power. So let's talk about how you can use it, how you can find your own way with it in order to not control with force, with necessarily like loud strength, but to how to do it with influence in a way that's not manipulative, that benefits you professionally, personally, in your relationships, in businesses, and in the boardroom. So, the first thing I want you to know, and maybe write this down, is that soft power is about presence. It's not about performance. Let me tell you how I learned this. Some of you know that I used to have a very successful business in healthcare where I was a private duty nurse to new mothers. So, this is the mother baby business. And I had a new client who had, let's just say, a very difficult delivery, very, very difficult time delivering her baby. There were many health complications. I wanted to do so much for them, and I ended up being able to do that, but not the way that I thought I would. With this particular issue, this client in particular, who I have developed a friendship with to this day, but was having an incredibly difficult time breastfeeding her baby. The baby would not latch to her breast as she was attempting to do this for the first time. She was exhausted. The baby was exhausted. She had consulted with 3 lactation consultants. And I'll tell you, I am not a lactation consultant. So, after hearing from a doctor, several nurses, and 3 lactation consultants, my client put everybody out of the room. Now, I'm here at this point to support her. We've just gone through this delivery, and I'm not necessarily here to nurse the baby for her. But when she had a quiet moment after everybody else got put out, I asked her for permission to just come and sit very close to her. And that's exactly what I did. She nodded her head, didn't really speak. And I just sat next to her and allowed our breathing to kind of synchronize. So we're in and out breathing together, just breathing together. And after a few minutes of that, I asked permission to hold her baby. And then after a couple of seconds of that, holding a calm baby, I asked permission to give her baby back to her and try this breastfeeding just one more time. And there was nothing magical about the technique or the position that we used, but I'll tell you that baby latched right away. And she was able to successfully breastfeed that baby for a little bit over a year. It had nothing to do with like my technical skills. It had everything to do with me just allowing her to feel comfortable and her baby to feel safe. That is what I call soft power. You don't lead by controlling the moment. You just lead by stabilizing the moment and giving people that emotional safety and support that they often need. Okay, so that's the first way that I want you to think about how you can use it in your own lives. The second way is to know this: influence is energetic, it's not loud. So I talk about this often, but for some reason people seem to think that the louder you speak, the more you turn up the dial on the volume, the more people will hear you, when in fact I found that the opposite is true. Let me give you an example of that. Some of y'all know I used to perform Botox. In fact, occasionally I still do, because I have some clients that just don't want to let go and move on. You make relationships and people develop relationships, and people like the way you help them to look and feel their best. best. So imagine that I have this client, and this is a business woman who's very busy, busier than I am at that time in my career. And every time I see her, she's on the phone. She's always in a hurry. She's rushing. That's not unusual. But what was very unusual this particular day was she came in and was rude. And that's one thing if you talk to the people on the phone one way. It's another when you use that tone. Type of speech. I'm from the South. It's not always what you say, but sometimes how you say things. So the way in which she spoke to me kind of put me off. And so as I am preparing to mix her product, okay, so I'm mixing some sterile normal saline and some Botox and trying to draw up the right amount of units for what I think she needs in terms of correction. And Kristen, hurry up. I need to go. I didn't come here to take, I don't know what you're doing. You're taking too long. Yeah. Instead of matching that energy and speeding up to match her and probably making a mistake and maybe losing a client, I actually slowed down and told the lady she could leave if she wanted to. I changed the subject and thought that she might walk out of the door. My mind was blown when I asked her how she was doing at home. And she answered me. Turns out this woman's husband had been having an affair, and her issue had nothing to do with this business that she was pouring herself into. In fact, I learned later that was a distraction for the real issue, which was she was having some relationship problems. She was feeling lonely. She was feeling out of control, which forced her to try to overly control everything else. And that is something I see commonly. When people are having issues at home, they are some jerks in the workplace. Or when they have absolutely no sense of control professionally or work or, whatever their environment is, they'll come home and be mean, demanding. You can't please them. But that's another story. That's another conversation for another time. By the time we were done, her face was, on its way to looking like what she wanted it to, but she felt good. She felt good. And by the way, the reason it wasn't right there immediately is because for those who don't know, Botox doesn't take immediate effect. Okay, so you need a little bit of time for the neurotoxins to relax those muscles. I just wanted to tell somebody that because somebody's going to watch this video and say, oh, what does she do? She might not know what she's doing. Yes, I do. But as it relates to this conversation and this topic, she said to me by the time we were done, Kristen, I don't know what it is about you, but I feel much more calm. I feel much more relaxed. I feel like I have clarity since I've come here to be with you. Thank you for that. And so what I wanted to tell you is that is an example of how you influence a situation. You don't necessarily match that energy. I mean, it may work for some people, but for me, when I think soft power, I think exactly the opposite. You set the tone, you set the temperature for what it is you want to see, what it is you want to experience. One of the reasons you'll always find that I'm sipping on a cup of tea and have flowers close to me is because they make me feel good. So I can prepare for my day and set the tone and the intention for the day before the day even shows up. You know what I mean? And so similarly, energetically, this is what you want to do when you are looking to influence your world, your businesses, your relationships, and exercise soft power. And many women have the ability to do this. They've just not been taught how. The third thing I want to tell you is that boundaries are bridges, not necessarily walls. And I think that that's worth writing down. A few years ago, a client wanted me to take on some extra work that we had not agreed upon contractually. All right. So I have a business and I was developing some products, we'll say, for these clients. And at the end, as I'm kind of offboarding her, she gives me a list of 5 or 6 other things that she wants done. And I felt myself getting ready to slip into that old habit of apologizing and over-explaining. And what I found myself saying is that we would both benefit by just cutting this job here or revising our original work order and contract and expectations, because I probably wouldn't meet her expectations if I felt as though I was getting shorted, if I didn't feel good about it. And I want you to know that that is the magic of boundaries. People think that by speaking up and letting their boundaries be known, their needs be known, that they're pushing people off. In fact, the opposite is often true when they are communicated with grace. You don't push people away. You teach people how to stay connected to you in the right way. And so everybody wins. So just in closing, I want you all to walk away from this knowing that soft power doesn't mean that you are forcing anything that doesn't need to happen. It also doesn't mean that you never get angry. It doesn't mean that you shrink to stay polite. It means that you exercise your natural calm influence. You own your own energy so that you don't have to perform strength. You actually embody it. I hope this message blesses someone. Have a wonderful day.